LED committee. Kia ora, hello, Ola Vanaka, namaste, ni hao, bonjour, malalole, modi, to all our Rotarians and Rotarectors that have joined us this afternoon. Kanu te mihi kia koutou katoa. It's my privilege and pleasure to welcome everyone on behalf of DG Alan Smith and the LED Committee to the LED 2022 Session 1. By way of introduction, I'd also like to put online at the moment our LED Committee members, Ariana Andrews, District Waipori Schools Liaison Coordinator, member of the Rotaract Club of Newmarket, and member of the Rotaract Club of Auckland. Kat Mariner is sick and is an apology today. She's President-elect 2022, Rotary Club of Pago Pago, American Samoa. Ratu Ganvi is the past President of the Rotaract Club of Suva. Erica Lee is an apology, 2 daughters sick, potentially COVID in Fiji. Past President Rotaract Suva East Chair, current President of Rotary Suva East. To bring our program to a beginning today, I'd like to give thanks and gratitude for bringing us all together safely and to open with a karakia. Kia horo te marino, may the peace be widespread. Kia whakapapa pounamu te moana nui a kiwa, may the sea be like greenstone. Hei huarahi mā tātou I te rangi nei. A pathway for all of us to lead today. I te kaupapa o te LEDS 2022 for the LEDS program for Leaders Elect, District 9920. Tātou kia tātou katoa, nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa, āmini. As we come together today, I would like us to firstly open the session with our special general meeting. And I'd like to hand that over to our District Finance and Administration Chair, Alan Eyes. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Edith, and good afternoon all. So, Alan, as Edith has said, this is the formal part of the meeting, a special general meeting with the business to consider and, if thought appropriate, approve the budget for DG Alan Smith and the subs for the levies for each club next year. So the documentation has been forwarded by District Secretary Kirsten Hawke some weeks ago, formally calling the meeting, and subsequently a circulation of information on the budget. So I point out that it is the clubs that are the members of our district. So we have a record of those that are attending this meeting, and we will take those that a person or that the clubs are represented when we come to voting. There are 2 postal votes that have been sent in and 1 proxy that's been issued to the chair of the meeting. So the format that we'll take for this is I will step you through the 4 or 5 slides of the budget pack, briefly introducing those. DG Alan will then speak briefly to the strategic initiatives which are fundamental to some of the costs in the budget, and then we'll move on to a formal resolution or a formal motion considering and approving the budget and the dues. I think probably the key thing on everybody's mind is what does that mean in dollar terms? And basically, as you'll see when we get to that, the proposal is that the levies for the district remain unchanged. So we'll now share the screen, hopefully.
Just have to co-host Alan, John.
Shouldn't have to, he should be able to share a screen.
Okay.
Does that come up? Can everybody see my screen with the?
No, we can't, Alan.
Okay, not now. Let me try again. We have got a backup plan with Alan and Glynis if this doesn't work. So just bear with me a minute. So you still nothing come up.
Yeah, we
Coming up
can, we
now,
can
Ellen.
now.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, but is it
Right.
going to show the right material?
Right now it's black.
And now still black.
Yeah, it still has a little message saying Alan Eyes has started screen sharing.
This is where I get everyone to sing a song, Ellen, so don't panic.
Right. I think we might go to plan B. Glynis, are you online? Are you able to share your screen, please?
We'll have to stop you sharing yours.
Okay.
Thanks, Ellen.
Aha. Now, it might actually work this time. No. No, we still don't have it. Glynis, are you online?
I don't think Glynis is in the room yet.
Alan, are you okay to share your screen, please? We desperately need that song, Edith.
Good, right, excellent.
Here we go. Here we go.
It's my one. Hang on.
Damn, I was ready to launch. Missed opportunity, never mind.
Yeah, I'm having to do this on 2 devices and one of them's letting me down. So.
Here you go.
No, that still looks like your pack.
That's your one, Ellen. It's okay, Fano. This is okay.
No, this is the budget.
We have up on the screen your president-elect. Is that what we should have? DG Alan Smith? That's what we can
No.
see currently.
So no, that hasn't worked then.
So you need to switch screens.
A different screen. If you've got
If you've got the PowerPoint running on another screen, you can actually switch presentation and presenter screens.
No, I haven't. Hang on.
I can have another go, John, if you can give it back to me.
You have it back because Alan stopped sharing.
Okay. Aha.
Hey,
Right.
okay, just up onto full screen now, Ellen.
Yep.
Well done.
It's still coming up full screen, but that's okay. So,
Yep.
okay, so this is the budget that covers the period 2020 through to 2023, which is the period for Alan going through from DGN to DGE to DG next year. So this budget has been considered by the Admin, Finance and Risk Management Committee and endorsed by the board on the 10th of April. And it now comes to the club, to this forum for approval, formal approval. Now, for whatever reason, it's not stepping through.
No, just you're not in presentation mode, Alan. Just click. To
I
the
am
next slide.
I am on my computer.
Yeah.
But-
you-
Okay. We
That
may
works.
have to go without presentation mode.
That's fine.
So what we're facing this year is we're expecting a semi return to business as usual. As you're both aware that for DG Craig's year and the current year, DG Steve's year, it's been a most unusual year because of COVID. And we had to some extent of that the second half of DG Gary Langford's year. So In terms of the budget now that we've put together and we're presenting to you is a phase back to, shall we call it, business as usual. So we've got funds that are coming in or have been provided to the district from RI, and that sum is a lot higher than we've had of most years in the past, which is really good. And in terms of the expenses that come within that category we can cover, those are listed down there. As you're aware, and as witnessed by the training today, that a lot of it is still online. So our training costs are lower than they have been in the past. In terms of visits to clubs, we're looking at those returning to more of a normal. And as with most of the rest of those expenses there, you will see a higher than normal club establishment fee, and Alan will touch briefly on this when he comes to the strategic side of it, because we are looking at chartering more clubs as part of growing Rotary in the district. I should add there that at this stage we don't envisage that all of the funds that RI have allocated to us will be spent. So there's a possibility there that we would need to refund some of that at the end of the year. In terms of the funds that are met from district, principally that is funded from the levy, and the levy is, as I indicated earlier, we're putting to this meeting that remains unchanged, that there be no increase. We have seen some drop off in membership, and although the strategy is for growing membership, we haven't budgeted for that at this stage. The expenses during the district are more back to a normal situation, which includes district funding of some expenses for visits to the Pacific Islands. The rest of that is pretty standard. We then move into what we put under committee headings, and the big expenditures there are around membership extension and public relations and communication. The rest of those items are reasonably standard. Obviously, the ROSOPS expenditure is a fairly large one that reflects the additional functions that national group has been carrying out of more recent years. So you put all that together and we come down with a budgeted deficit of $32,000 with $7,200 of unallocated Rotary International funding. Now, Alan will talk briefly now, because that deficit is largely made up from the strategic initiatives under membership and public image. And we are looking at how we could fund that, and noting that those funds, we will have a surplus this Rotary year, and we have the previous 2 Rotary years because of reduced activities, and that's where we're looking at that funding coming from. So in summary, those are the comments which I've briefly run through in terms of things that might of note within the budget. And Alan, now would you like to make some comment with regard to a brief comment with regard to the strategic aspects and spend?
Sure, Alan. Thank you for the presentation so far. I think that as a board and working with the DG group under the leadership of DG Steve, we have recognised that Rotary needs to change its direction and its initiative. It's like any organisation that requires change, it needs investment either by voluntary hours or investment in particular areas that will create a change. And that's what we've identified, that second part. All our Rotary members are volunteers and they work really hard and they excite their communities, but they need some greater opportunities. And I'll talk about this later on in my presentation as part of the LED program. But what we need to do is actually have a central focus on new club development, give clubs an incentive to develop new membership inside their club so it becomes more affordable for new members to join for the first 12 months. That we support them through public relations activities that hopefully will work towards a holistic advertorial for Rotary within the district, plus bring in experts into the country in order to advance the focus on new membership and new style clubs. And all of that remains an investment that is supported from the past surpluses that we've had. But it's also important that we are frugal in what we're doing and monitor what we're doing, ensuring that we are spending the funds wisely, but bearing in mind that this program is a 3 to 4 year program, and we've seen through a model that occurred in Australia through the Gold Coast that it took 4 years for this to come fully to fruition, which we're starting to see now. So that's the synopsis of what we're trying to achieve. Behind me, I have new chairs. I have a set of really enthusiastic area governors who will be working alongside clubs, and we will be looking at driving this initiatives in order to gain results where required. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Alan. So what that will mean if the approval goes through, I've listed up here the district levies, RI and district levies that would apply to members. So the RI dues remain unchanged in total for the current year, albeit there's a slight an increase of $1 in the RI dues, which is offset by no Council of Legislation levy for the coming year. The RDU magazine, Alan was just informed on Friday that the hard copy is going to remain unchanged, but they are increasing the cost of the digital component or the digital offering, which is there, which may or may not be a discussion people want to have at another stage, but not for this meeting. And as I say, the levies that we're looking at applying within the district, we're recommending there's no change from last year, and in fact it's remained unchanged for a few years now. So I'm going to put a motion to the meeting, and then we'll have an opportunity for discussion. If you'd like a lot more depth on it, can I ask, perhaps this is not the time to do that unless it's pertinent to your voting for this, and Alan or I are only too happy to deal with those things offline. So in terms of keeping this moving, because as we all know, it's a little difficult doing some of these things online versus all being in the same venue. So as the representative for the Rotary Club of Pukekohe on the meeting, I will formally move that the budget for DG 2022-23, Alan Smith, be approved, and that the per capita levies for clubs in the district as set out in the budget be fixed for the financial year 2022-2023. Can I call for a seconder for that motion, please? Silence.
I'll second.
Right, thank you, Raj. So I'll now open for any comments or questions on that motion. If there are none, then I propose now to move on to put this. And so I will ask for probably the only practical way we can do for a show of hands in favour, and then I'll call for any opposed or any abstaining. So all in favour, remembering I know it's a bit messy, we can only count one vote from each club. So if you consider yourself the deemed nominee of the club, please vote. So all in favour, please raise your hand. Thank you. Are there any opposed? Now, I can't see all of the screens on my iPad. Is there any opposed, Edith or John?
No, I can't see any.
Cannot see any hands raised in opposition.
Thank you. And
None
is there
opposed.
any abstentions? Again, no hands, John?
No hands and nobody abstaining. No.
All right, well, I'll declare that motion carried without dissent, and appreciate the time and formally close the meeting. Thank you all.
Good, thank you, Alan. Special general meeting part of LED 2022 has just concluded. I'd now like to invite to the session DGE Alan Smith, Area Governor DGE 2022 2023, DG 2022-23, Public Image Chair 21-22, Trustee for the Rotary New Zealand World Community Service, Zone 8 Regionalisation Governance Committee member, and member of the Rotary Club of St John's. Kia ora, Alan, over to you.
Kia ora, Edith. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Nā mai here mai ke tēnei hui inga a tātou. Inga reo, inga mana, inga tēnei ka ranga mai, tēnā koutou katoa. Tēnā koutou a ranga tengara tanga mai kui intai mai nei ki tēnei hui inga a tātou. For those from our Pacifica and Asian participants, Bola, Talofa, Namatast, Ni Hao, Malu, Bonjour, Kia Oriana, and Mori. Welcome here today. I really find it a great pleasure to be involved in these meetings, for you to get to know me and me to get to know you. And I've had, through under DG Steve, I've had some wonderful opportunities in Zoom meeting left, right and centre with many club members and many friends of Rotary. But it's unfortunate that we haven't been able to meet in person on a large number of occasions. We're hoping that will change in 22-23. And between myself and my wife, Sue, we're really looking forward to that. I'm just going to share my screen. Did the wrong one first.
There's a trick when you're sharing a PowerPoint presentation to actually sharing the presenter view and not the PowerPoint view itself.
How's that? Can you see that?
That's perfect.
Thank you. So that's myself and my wife, and many of you know Sue, and she is also the operations manager for Romac New Zealand, and very much comes from a past Rotary family where her father, Brian Middleton, was a past founding member of the Auckland East Rotary Club and held presidencies and was a Paul Harris Fellow. So we follow in his steps with pride in trying to work with Rotary in order to develop change. Rotary is imagining. Imagining Rotary is the theme from our international president, Jennifer Jones. She uses the word imagine in a way that leaves the world open for us to implement change and implement new ideas within our community, both globally and locally. There's no laws around the word imagination. The only thing you have is your own ability to look outside and say, yes, we can do that. Jennifer Jones, in the time that I've met her online, she's very much a woman who says, don't judge me as a woman, but judge me with what I have achieved as a Rotarian and as a human being. I think that's a really important message for us all, that we walk the talk, we don't say things without doing, and that we lead by example in a collaborative and participant way. We all have different roles to play within our Rotary Club, whether it's in fellowship, project driven, or leadership driven. Each position and contribution to that club is equally important. We divided the board of Rotary this year, or my year coming up, into two different areas. So we've looked at a higher level so that we have less meeting times and more doing time. So in the higher level, we have a strategic intent on the district board, and we have some important aspects. Obviously, District Governor-elect Vanita Nunn, when she follows me, District Governor nominee when that person is chosen, past District Governor Steve Cheney, who also takes up, and I'm very thankful for Steve for doing this. I suppose Jenny is too, taking over the position of foundation chair, and he has that passion around the foundation and the charity it represents. Alan Ives, administration and finance chair, he has been involved in this and is a well-experienced finance manager who chairs a great group of team in order to go forward. A new area, but I think is really, really important, and that's diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the chair is past area governor, Tania Thomas, who joins this diversity and leads the district in this area. Alongside in the strategic, equally as important, it would be remiss of me not recognizing the importance of redistricting, regionalization, and past district governor Craig Horrocks will become our representative, or is our representative in this area, and will be communicating and leading an important process that will take place between now and October. And then our Rotaract chair, Sean Peacock. They've come to the table at a high level because Rotaract is very, very important to us. And we work beside each other. And the commitment from Sean is to make sure that we interact fully as organizations and not work in isolation. So the next area is the doers. I say that because we all try to do things. And I wouldn't be supported as much as DG hasn't been supported without the help of our District Secretary, Christian Hawke. Then you'll see that there are different work streams which each part of the organisation will work under and work together. But our view is that with new club development, public image, and ICT, it is important they collaborate together and work as a parcel that drives the key initiatives that we've spoken about today. Youth Services Chair Peter Ross has a huge portfolio underneath him, and his team of very experienced members developing the youth program for us as we move away from isolation back into Rotary as a norm. I would be remiss without identifying Edith Cheney as a leadership development chair and supporting Vanita going forward. Without her, we wouldn't be where we are today as far as Zoom education and in terms of new initiatives that not only drives our district, but actually drives Rotary throughout New Zealand and the zone. And I appreciate that effort. A new initiative I want to talk Edith into is developing a 21st Leadership Training Centre. However, that's still work in progress and we'll see how we go. And then because of a new initiative under the foundation around environment, we have recognised that we need to have some focus in this area. Our clubs are telling us that we want focus, and we've appointed David Bradshaw and Stephen Lyon as co-chairs in that area. Stephen Lyon will be moving back to Auckland from Rarotonga, but his passion is within the Pacifica. And David obviously is well known to a large number of you as an area governor, and he continues that role alongside this co-chair position. Public image position will be managed by Charles Miller, and our new club development chair is Ashwini Sadhu, and she is already active in her planning and her actions from here. You will see in August that we have invited Andy Rapakaski, the zone regional coordinator, who will be visiting New Zealand, not only in this district, but all the other districts, to do a 10-day tour that discusses new club development, new styles of clubs, and your opportunity at Rotary to take advantage of those learnings. Your area governor team is really important. These are the Auckland ones. They have been allocated their clubs, and some of you may have even been contacted by these area governors. They are very passionate about what they do. They understand the task in front of them, and they want to work within the clusters of those clubs so that as a cluster, we show greater image and determination within our communities and look for collaboration with outside organizations. Within the Pacifica, we have Teresa and Deepak, who will be managing the Fiji clubs in a cluster group, becoming their advisors. That's a large group of clubs, and with Vanita stepping into the DGE role, she will need as much support as possible, and hence why we've allocated Teresa as the area governor and Deepak as the assistant area governor for Fiji. Peter Paulson will continue to work with Tonga and Kiribati, because those two islands, obviously with the disasters they've had in the recent past, still have a large amount of work locally. And there are some initiatives that we're working towards in both Kiribati and Tonga that we believe will help the quality of life for those populations. Mike Peinenberg will become an assistant area governor for Rarotonga and Rotaract Rarotonga, and puts a new emphasis on Rarotonga as a growing organisation. And already they are trying to establish a Rotaract club on Arotaki, which is a great initiative to go forward. Frank Barron, he's steadfast after his first year, and he's taking over the management of Samoa as well as American Samoa. And then Medi, who is looking after Tahiti again and has gone through the COVID issues of Tahiti and come out with a new Rotaract club being developed in Tahiti. So even though we don't start until the 1st of July, under DG Steve's banner, we're in the planning stages and we're working hard to develop from there. So remember, we are as good as what we do. And if we don't do it, things will go backwards. And so we've got opportunities to make change, opportunities to develop forward and deliver from there. I apologize for my voice, I'm croaky, but I haven't been well over the last couple of days. And being as good as what we do, I put challenges to you. What is your club vision for 22-23? What will you do differently as a club? How can your club support you to succeed as a club member and your new president-elect who will become president in 22-23? Does your club represent your community? And in partnership with your district, do the resources help you? That's really important that we work as a team and going forward. For new members, there'll be no district fees for the first 12 months as a Rotary member. The RI fees I can't do much about. RDU I can't do much about, but I can certainly waiver the district fees, and that forms part of the investment going forward and initiates an opportunity for our current clubs to develop new members inside. A system working alongside the new club development. Can your club set up a satellite club? Can your club sponsor a Rotaract club? These are questions that only you and your club can answer. Importantly, as club officers, your club data is recorded accurately accurately within Club Runner. Too often we find that the details of Club Runner aren't filled in. It's left in a too hard basket, but as a district, it's harder for us to report back our progress going forward. As I said before, build your projects within your cluster to make an impact. Grasp the opportunities that presents itself and build your reputation as a club and image within your communities. I think that's really, really important. Tell your people stories. Live the world of Rotary and what it is to be a Rotarian. As a team together, we will have a challenge. Complete your club health checks, work in the clusters, develop projects that stand out in the community, and collaborate with others inside your community. The budget, now that I've spoken about these initiatives, you can see why we put some money into these different areas of membership extension, of growing Rotaract and Interact. We have to invest in ROSOP and an ICT system, and Simon Cook, who's a new president this year, is also chair of the ICT team, and they have been putting a huge amount of hours alongside Craig in developing that system. Public relations and grants, and then the rest is normal expenditure that we would do as a district within Rotary. Nelson Mandela, I was looking for something that inspired me. Nelson Mandela said, the greatest glory in living lies not in never falling. We'll always fall, but in rising every time we fall, together as a team. But also, more important for me is we've got to have some fun. You know, we can all be too serious about this. Even though it is a serious organizations, we want to have fun and develop our teams together. I'm looking forward to the 2 days ahead and hearing your views, because I've always found the best views come from the front line, not from the people standing behind us, but those who are in front of us working together in our communities. And already I've seen some projects that I go, wow, why didn't we think of that in the past? And I'm looking forward to that. So thank you for your time today. I'm really looking forward to it. Kia ora, Edith, back to you.
Kia ora, DGE Alan Smith, you've done well. I think you deserve a glass of water at 1:42, but too early for wine. Just say, well done. So the next part of our session is our area governance. Now I'm looking at the time, and everyone that knows me knows I'm a bit of a time keeper. 1:42. We have noted in the attendees today, our 39 attendees at the moment, that we have an inconsistent group with our AGs not represented. So we are going to go into our AGs groups, and there may be more than one AG within your group. And I know that all of you will welcome that new person in. John, are we able to get those people into a breakout group?
We can, yep.
Okay, now the purpose of this session, 1:43, we are finishing at 1:50 to ensure that we keep to our break time and that you move away from your screens, that you get yourself watered and stretched and ready for the next session, which will be the Zone 8 Creating Tomorrow Rotary introduction by Past District Governor Ingrid Waugh and immediate Past District Governor Craig Horrocks. So, AGs, this is your time to shine. Introduce yourselves, get us into those groups with people. I see we have groups of people that are at the district level, general discussion around the roles, any questions that you may want to ask, go for it. You have 7.5 minutes. Kia ora.
They're already gone, Edith. They were going as you were talking.
Thank you. Yeah. Excellent. Ariana, did you want to go into a group?
I think I'm okay. I'm just sorry,
Okay.
I'm a little bit sick as well, so I might just
Okay.
yeah.
Well,
I have no idea who Kevin is, by the way. There's a purple square called Kevin, and I have no idea who it is.
which group is he in? I might go
He's
to
from
that
St John's.
Oh, it's that Kevin.
Kevin Cavani. Yeah.
I do know Kevin now that I see his face. He doesn't know how to talk in chats though on Zoom.
That's a learning curve. He'll know by the end of this DGE Alan's year.
He will.
Absolutely.
I'm going to put him in Joyty's group just now.
Okay, I think I'm going to go into a group. How are the rest of us? Craig, Jenny, Jeanette, Ingrid, and Kevin.
I should probably go into Raj's group representing our club.
Okay, thank you. Raj's group.
Who wants to go into Raj's group? Sorry,
Jeanette.
Jeanette.
Because I'm here representing our club.
Oh, okay.
John, can I go into Joyty's group, please? Colin here.
Thanks, Colin.
You might as well put me in with Parnell if you like, which is Evelyn's.
Evelyn, cool.
And John, can you put me in with Teresa?
Just one moment. Oh, you can actually, you can't because I haven't made you a host. But
No, you haven't made him a host.
so you want to go in with who? Sorry,
Teresa, Fiji.
Fiji. Oh, we don't really have a Fiji one. We've got a Pacific one. I'll put you in there.
That'll do.
Yeah.
That'll do.
Pacific, beautiful. Any other takers?
Anybody else want to go anywhere else?
Well, I'd like to have a quick word with Alan if he's still online.
Alan Eyes?
Alan Eyes, are you
Alan
there?
Eyes? Hello, Alan.
I'm
might have
wondering if
sti-
he's disappeared because he did connect on 2 devices, and this might. Oh no, hang
No,
on.
I'm still here, folks. I'm getting my lunch organised as I've been listening. So no, I can talk with Craig. Just give us put us in a little box somewhere, John, and just give me 2 minutes, Craig, and I'll be there.
I will add you into a little box. Okay.
I love it. Okay, which one? Jeanette's gone there. Irina, I might join Irina, I think. That was a little trial to see if we actually had the breakout group slightly too big. And Jointy, I see your group was the biggest. So I just need some feed in from an administrative point of view. That we had a short time for your korero with people, knowing that some of those actual members weren't in your allocated clubs, only because whoever turns up today is the ones that turn up. So I just need some feed in from area governors how that group size went, and do we need to do some adjustments, please?
I think the group size was good that we had. We all shared, everybody got a chance to speak. Yeah.
Yeah, Evelyn, what about from you? Okay, kapa Evelyn.
Kia ora, Edith, it's Tania. In
Yes.
Raj and Irene's group, we only had 4 people, and so we had lots of time, which was great, but it was a small group.
Okay, we have Chris on the call. Chris, anything
It's
from
Pai,
your group?
Edith. Kate Pai.
Kate Pai Tena, beautiful.
Yep, hi.
Frank.
Yeah, I think our group was great. It was just enough time and everybody got to communicate a little bit. And we were fortunate enough to have a visit from DGE Alan Smith.
Fantastic. Only the special ones today. David Bradshaw, what about you?
Oh, I was in the same group as Chris, so maybe in the next session, if you've got too many, you could break me out to a different group. I mean, I can run another group if it's a help.
Okay, thank you. Any other AG in the space that any feed in from you before we go to a break? 1:58. Cool. Before we go to that break, I see Leanne Jacks, you are on the call. Might be a good opportunity if we have you before the break, and I'll make the break a bit longer, I promise. So you get your cup of tea or your drink. John, can you give, is Leanne able to share screen?
Or shares. Anyone can share screen.
Thank you.
Okay.
Perfect. Nau mai hara mai Leanne Jacks, Past District Governor 2018-19, Zone 8. Where have we got here? past District Foundation Chair, past District Public Image Chair, District Conference Chair currently, District Representative Convention Committee 22-23 Melbourne, Australia, RI Strategic Committee member 22 to 25, and a very valued member of the Rotary Club of Manukau City Sunrise. He kōrero mai, e ho.
Wonderful afternoon, all. Lovely to be here. Very short and sweet. But I wanted to come along today and talk about our lovely conference that is coming up in Te Papa, Wellington. As you can see there, the dates are over the Matariki weekend, which is our first one for New Zealand, which is absolutely awesome. So Friday and Saturday, the 24th to the 26th of June. We've got some amazing speakers lined up, both virtually and in person. So just a couple to kind of like whet your conference appetites. We have Robert Oliver from Pacific Food Revolution. He is a New Zealand chef, an author, TV presenter, and he's actually been on the tasting panel for the foodies of My Kitchen Rules New Zealand, which was one of my favorite shows. So that's why I had to put that in. And he also has a new Pacific food focus show out now, which he's going to be talking about. We have Sir Ian Taylor from Animation Research, ARL Industries. His story is absolutely incredible and one not to miss. I actually got a favorite quote that I wanted to share from Sir Ian. Someone invented the internet and they gave us our highway to the world. We have been traveling it ever since. So that will give you just an idea of what he's going to be talking to us about. So that's going to be pretty exciting. And then we have our own Peter Boshier from, well, actually he's based in Wellington and he's a chief ombudsman. I say own as he's actually a past president of the Rotary Club of St. John's. And Peter always has an interesting story to tell us as he travels the world doing amazing things. Then, of course, we've got our incredible Friday and Saturday nights events, which can't be missed. Our Friday, we have got our Rotary's Got Talent show, which is now actually going to be held in the Parliament buildings. So if you haven't been to the Beehive and around that area, it's going to be quite spectacular. We do still need clubs to participate. We have a few, but we would like a lot more. As we made it so that you could do it in your own backyard and in your local community, wherever you wanted to do it, you don't have to do it in Wellington. It means you can actually have a great club event and able to share it with everyone. We'd love some of our Pacific Island clubs to participate because literally everyone's going to be sitting watching like a movie really. So it's going to be a great night. And there's 2 lots of $1,000 up for grabs to be used in your local community. So, you know, if that doesn't whet your appetite, come on. And then of course, we've got our Saturday evening, which is our finale of our wonderful conference. And that's going to be our gala dinner, all glitz and glamour. So just like the Matariki Shining Stars, so will we be. So please bring your dancing shoes, just saying. But we do need you to register. I will be sending out another email either today or tomorrow, just with some more information for club bulletins, etc. But I would love to see you all there. So that's my little conference spiel. Thank you.
Good, Leanne, thank you. We are going to go to a break now, whānau. We can stop sharing screen. Thanks, Leanne.
Yep, cool.
Fantastic. Love that. The time on my computer is 2:02. We're going to come back at 2:08. Back into the room where we will be introduced to Ingrid Waugh and Craig Horrocks, leading us through the first iteration corridor for Zone 8 Creating Tomorrow Rotary Introduction, not to be missed. So have a break, have a cup of tea, and come back to us at 2:08. Kia ora. To start into our session 3, Zone 8 Creating Tomorrow Rotary Introduction, by our two deliverers, Ingrid Waugh, past District Governor, 2018-19, Zone 8 Co-Chair Regionalisation Committee, District Rotary Leadership Institute Chair, New Zealand SPEDS Learning and Development Chair, completed this term this year, District Trustee Representative Rosot's Committee, and member of the Rotary Club of Parnell. Along with her, her co-presenter today is Craig Horrocks, immediate past District Governor, 21-22, District Representative Zone 8 Regionalisation Committee, District Trustee ROSOPS Committee, District Representative Insurance Committee, member of the Rotary Club of Auckland, fourth generation Rotary whānau. Kanu te mihi kia kōrua, mō tō kōrero tēnei ahi hei nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Thank you, Edith. Thank you very much. Great to be here. And thank you for the opportunity to talk about this project that has been in train for 3 years. And for a number of you here today, it might be the first time that you've heard about Creating Tomorrow Rotary or regionalisation as we talk about it. So Craig and I are going to talk jointly today. As Edith said, my role is as the co-chair of this regionalisation pilot committee, which started after my year as district governor. It was an initiative of that year's group of governors across all of Australia and New Zealand. And the purpose of the project has been to explore a new model of governance for Rotary in our part of the world. And we're now at a point where we can share with our members what that is all about and let you know what's coming up next. So I'll bring up the presentation and hand over to you, Craig.
Thank you. Thank you.
I will just,
right. If we can get on to the
I just couldn't find the
slideshow.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, so as Ingrid has outlined, there's been a lot of work going on in the background, and Alan's mentioned this as always in Rotary, a lot of work going on in the background, and this timeline the milestones that are in front of you sets out what needs to happen from here, because the big thing is that the RI board and the Council on Legislation, our Parliament, have actually now given us the green light to proceed. So we've got a lot of opportunity because there's only 2 pilots around the world to experiment and innovate. We're being given support to do try these different things. So we're shaping our future, and there are a number of issues which, because of the nature of our region, you'll no doubt be interested, particularly the Pacifica clubs, to hear in this presentation today. So here we are with in May, August, we are now starting the process of consultation, and on this slide we'll come back to this issue of the fact that we do need to come and talk to you, because at the end of the day this is a vote of the Rotarians and it will be done club by club. So you can see there September 2022 the vote, and then from there there'll be some fine tuning. Shall I, next slide, and Ingrid, do you want to talk to you? Do you want to talk to this one?
Yes, I'm happy to do this. So for you as a president, as Craig has just mentioned, we're now at a point of being able to share a whole lot more information, because we now have the support from the RI board and the Council on Legislation. Prior to that, we could not really proceed. So we can do that now, which is very exciting. We have a whole program of communications planned out. And for you as a president, the key things here are what you need to know. That we're going to start with a consultation with leadership groups, so with the governor trains, remembering that this is across all of Australia, New Zealand, and the Pacific countries that are part of our Rotary zone. So we'll be consulting with governor trains, district leadership groups, members, district committee chairs, all of those people who have various types of leadership roles. And then they'll move from that group to start communicating with clubs. We would like to specifically visit clubs, either individually or in groups. You can do that online or in person. We will run some larger scale events online as well, which will be open to anybody in the zone. Those will happen sometime during both July and August. In August, we need to give you notice of the vote. So one of the conditions for the RI board's support of our pilot was that it needed to be supported by our clubs. And this is a pilot. So they asked us to, and we'd actually, to be frank, we'd planned it in our planning to have a vote of clubs anyway. So that vote is at this point in time set down to happen in September. Firstly, as Craig said, it is a vote of clubs. It is one vote per club, and we will require a 2/3 majority of all clubs in the zone for us to proceed with our pilot. We're still working with the legal team to clarify the actual wording, but basically it'll be a yes/no vote. Yes, I support us looking at change and proceeding to pilot a new regional governance structure, or no, I want things to stay as they are. So obviously the president of a club will represent their club in the vote. And that is why we would like to speak with your clubs so that your club members have the opportunity to learn what's being proposed, have the opportunity to ask questions, to have their say. Where after the vote has happened, we do have to go back to the Rotary International Board. And then what our time frame looks like is that a pilot of an interim regional structure is likely to begin, as long as the vote proceeds, in July 2023. We will start. The whole time frame is actually for the pilot is through until July 2026. So this is what it looks like if you look ahead over the next period of time. We're in stage 1 now, which is the planning, design, transition, and we'll be putting an implementation team together. We've been a planning team for 3 years, but it will need an implementation team to actually drive the pilot forward. Then we'll be looking at the election, selection and training of the office bearers for the interim regional structure and preparing for a final regional structure. Some functions of districts will gradually transfer to a regional level. And we're looking at completing the pilot around about the 1st of July 2026. So it is a pilot. We're exploring, we're developing, we're testing and evaluating as we go. And an important point is that districts remain in place right throughout that time. They will be here and we will still have district governors through that time, because the districts and district governors are the officers of Rotary International. So I will stop at that point in terms of the time frames, and then let's move forward. Craig, I'll hand over to you to talk about the regional structure and the principles.
Thank you, Ingrid. Yes, look, Ingrid's finished off on a very important point. Districts remain in place, and there won't be any further redistricting. So we won't be distracted by other projects. This regional council will be structured on these principles, democratically elected, with supporting committees and local leaders. Anybody can nominate, which is a little bit of a different process from our experience with the district governor train. Representation is absolutely key, and there's been a lot of discussion on that, that the regional council needs to look like the region. And our region is a very diverse region, Australasia and Oceania. So that will have to be worked out in detailed constitutional documents, which will follow, but that's acknowledged. And then in terms of, well, how long, are these regional council positions going to be? Well, clearly it's a much broader role, and the time frame for appointment to office is suggested to be between 2 and 4 years. All of that will come through in actual governance documents, draft constitutions, etc. But this is to be distinguished from the phase that we're going now, which is, do we even consider this? And that's the yes, no, up, down vote that Ingrid's talked about in the against the prior slide. So if we can move on to the next slide. I think perhaps both Ingrid and I can just talk about this, because the issue that we've been grappling with is this just change for change's sake, or is this actually going to make a difference for Rotarians on the ground? And the idea basically behind this is that that clubs are freed up from a lot of the current processes that we're engaged in, which are perhaps a bit too detailed, and that they actually just can get on with the job of projects and fellowship. I think is really what we're here for. And so these points that on this slide, which I'll hand back to Ingrid on, are really the guts of it. If it's not change for change's sake, it's change to ensure that we've got a wider collaboration, much more focus on projects and fellowship. So Ingrid?
Yes, thanks, Craig. Yeah, and I'll add to that. In particular, with regard to projects and fellowship, increased collaboration as well. At the moment we have in our district, we have pretty good collaboration between clubs, but there isn't much collaboration between districts. We do have our South Pacific Pets in New Zealand, which is something the Australians look at with envy, because they don't have that kind of collaboration amongst 5 or 6 districts that we have. But we would like to see that go even further. That we think there are opportunities for example, doing really impactful projects. Give Every Child a Future as an example of a big project which had 4 clubs working together. But there are opportunities to do more big projects like that, to get better partnerships so that we can increase our fundraising, not just from Rotarians, but from corporates and other sorts of companies. We want to get our voice out there. We know that people don't really know well what Rotary does. So it's really aiming to address a lot of those issues by removing the barriers that may be there. You might be interested to realise that the current structure we have in Rotary has been in place since just after the Second World War. And it really, most organisations do review their structure and look at what's effective and how best to engage with their members at some time. Rotary International has been talking about looking at regional approaches, because we're culturally different all around the world. We're all part of one big organization, but there are lots and lots of different cultures. So this is giving us an opportunity to shape things the way that work for us. So I'll move to the next stage, which is, so this has really been a brief overview, but how can you learn more? Well, obviously we want you to book a presentation for your club and get it into your calendar, into your schedule of club speakers in July or August, or some may even start a little bit earlier in June. There is a dedicated website called Creating Tomorrow Rotary, which has a number of resources in it. It also has a button where you can subscribe to receive updates, and another button that says have your say, where you can ask questions, you can share your ideas, and give us some feedback, because it's always been a consultative approach that we have taken right from the beginning. And some of you may have seen articles in RDU magazine about regionalisation. So we're very keen to hear your views, and we want to have the opportunity to share with your clubs so that people can be well informed, to have the chance to ask questions and so on before the club has to vote. So what I can do is stop sharing at this point and open up and see if there are any questions here, or Edith, whether I've got a couple of thoughts if we wanted to go into breakout groups, but there may be people who have some burning questions, or I don't know, Alan Smith. Alan Smith is part of our governance working group. I didn't mention that there have been 5 working groups looking at key areas like club culture, communication, public image, governance, leadership and development, and we've expanded that to also look at what the future organisational structure might look like. We're also going to create one for the Rotary Foundation and for IT. So, you know, there's a lot of, as Alan said, a lot of work in the background. Do you want to add or say anything, Alan?
I think it's important for these members who will be presidents of their clubs during this time to actually become informed, to discuss openly with the clubs, but also with Craig as our district representative, or myself, or you, Ingrid, in order to be informed along the way. And as you can appreciate, we have 52 clubs in our district. And so we may not be able to get to everyone singularly. So it might be, and you might learn more when they're in those cluster presentations that are online. So I would encourage you all to participate, because if you do not participate, you will not understand the opportunities for us in the future. Thanks, Ingrid.
Thanks, Alan. You know, this has been a very, very brief overview of what there is a whole lot more information. So thanks for reinforcing our availability to provide more information and answer questions, and you'll have avenues for that.
Thanks, Ingrid and Craig. I'm suggesting that we are working with the gifted and talented in this room today. So they will be wanting to ask more questions.
Yeah.
They will be very curious to have that information and become self-learners in this space, and go to that website link and find out more, and then to come back and, as you suggested, set up in their clubs a meeting online or in person with yourselves, and to go forward. But for this afternoon, I'm suggesting that we perhaps go back into those breakout groups, and if we have 2 questions, or actually, is there any burning questions from the main group right now? If you could hands up, I think I've got most of the screen in front of me.
Well, can I just say, you know, there are lots of questions that have gone on over the last 3 years, and it would be, with this group here, it would be great to hear. There's no such thing as a stupid question, because this is new territory. I've had questions like what's going to happen to the governor's chains? Are we going to melt them down? One of the things that Ingrid's mentioned is there are 2 pilots worldwide. Who's the other? Is anybody interested as to who the other pilot is? And are we competing with them? Well, of course we are. You know that if it's the Anzac Spirit. But there are lots of issues relating to how this is going to work, which, as Ingrid's outlined, will come out in the constitutional documents. But those constitutional provisions, democracy, anybody can nominate, and the regional council terms will be something like 2 to 4 years, a bit different from the DGNN, DGN, DGE DGs, and then those like Ingrid and myself who are past DGs, and it's all over. Well, and past District Governor Beryl, past District Governor Leanne. There's quite a few of us here. That past District Governor issue, well, what's going to happen with that engine that we rely on? And so there are lots of questions. If there's any further questions that this group has here, it would be great to have those.
Absolutely. And you can do that through the website, creatingtomorrowrotary.org. There is a place there you can send them. Otherwise, I'm happy you can send them directly to me or to Craig. Any questions that come in get taken directly back to our project team. And tonight I have meetings with all the current DGs, the current DGZ, the current DGZN, and our district regionalisation reps. So we're covering a lot of the field.
Kia ora kōrua, kōrero mai koutou. Where to from here? Are we into breakout groups to just discuss? Maybe bring those questions as immediate past District Governor Craig has alluded to. We know there'll be more questions than answers. And as we know, it is a democratic process. So
Totally.
I would like us to now, because we're at 2:32, we have about 7 minutes to go into that breakout session, and just to talk amongst yourselves around this, knowing that this is the first iteration. So anything that comes back from there, we will collate and certainly pass on to Ingrid and Craig, and we can probably have time before we go to the next break to maybe bring those back in. So John Fothergill, my right-hand person, if we send our people into those breakout groups, please. Thank you. Thank you, Whānau. I'm going to now open up to any burning initial partai for our DGs, for Ingrid and Craig, as part of our session this afternoon, knowing there is more to come. So anyone with hands up or raise hand or put your reaction button up, we are watching the screens, the multiple screens in front of us. Or any keys. Thank you. Tanya.
Kia ora. Our group came up with 15 questions.
Only 15.
Only 15. But I'm thinking if I quickly run through them, maybe then other groups can add what was not mentioned.
Kia ora. Kia ora mai.
What will clubs stop doing in order to, spend more time doing projects and fellowship and things like that? Will there still be small local projects? How will the administration be lessened within clubs? What stays and what goes during the pilot? Does everything stay in the ordinary current structure and then on top of it, the pilot? So do you do both running alongside each other? There seems to be a super city approach. They don't want to lose community focus. More details needed. And one of the suggestions is could there be a diagrammatic picture of the current structure versus the proposed structure with a list of the key changes in roles from the current to the future? Will the club structure be an annual turnover once it remains, or will it be the 2 to 4 years as well? What will happen in terms of it looks like there'll be lots more layers of decision making, and that it looks like a corporatized approach. And people are a little bit concerned about losing the the community, the common touch, the visits of the DGs, that sort of closeness that they have now. And I think I've probably put things in together. So if anyone amongst my group wants to mention anything, but people were, you know, let's wait and see. We need more information.
Terrific questions. Thank you. Yeah, we do have answers for those, but they are great questions.
Anyone else like to share before we go to a break?
So this is Graham Fabian speaking from
Graham.
St John's Rotary. Just in our group, I guess this is the first time most of us have heard this, and you have discussed a lot about the process and so on. And as we sit here now, is there any way that you can elaborate a little bit more on the specifics relating to the outcome that you're looking for? And you did mention projects and fellowship. Now, we made a number of assumptions, but I guess we'd like to hear from the architects. Perhaps you could elaborate on give us something specific that you would be thinking of happening that will help us understand.
Yeah. So I'll start by saying I shared a couple of things in the group that I was in, that we are not touching the structure of clubs. So that's a really important point to be aware of, that this is really designed to provide better support to clubs between the club and Rotary International, and if anything, to simplify the decision making rather than adding layers in. So one example that we will be looking at is how can we automate some of the administrative functions that currently happen, like dues payment and invoicing and so on, that clubs have to do, so that it's easier for clubs. We reduce the amount of that kind of work they can do so that they can spend more time on projects and fellowship. So projects and fellowship are the core, are really the heart of Rotary and must not change. That's one thing I would say. A couple of other things we are considering in that that future structure is having specialist support groups of experts from across our zone. So there are people like Jeanette, who's probably still on the call, who knows everything there is to know about doing global grants. You know, if you need to know anything, you go to Jeanette. What we want to do, for example, is to have groups of people who have specialist knowledge on, like doing global projects, like growing new clubs, like promoting Rotary in their community, that any club can go to and tap into, rather than at the moment having to go and try and find someone or doing everything at a district level, so that we can get the best of the best available for every club. So that's just a couple of examples. You'll get a lot more of the answers to these questions in the presentation to the clubs, and also you'll have the chance to kind of feed those questions in and get some answers back. So that's a pretty brief answer. Graham?
Okay, thanks, Ingrid. Just a question on the website. I haven't had a chance. I've just opened it up quickly now. Is there a little bit more meat in there that helps you? Yeah. So if we had a good look at that before we even saw you come around to the club, that would be really beneficial.
Absolutely. The FAQs, Craig had given us some feedback. We have a very comprehensive FAQs document on there, frequently asked questions, and your feedback has been incorporated in the revised version, Craig. And there is a fact sheet that can be printed off. We'll be sharing that fact sheet with every club when we go, but it's available there now. Yes, so there's a lot more information there than that. I mean, we've really done a very high level brief presentation today.
Thank you, Ingrid and Craig, for that. And thank you, everyone, for going into your groups and beginning the thinking around change that will benefit our district and, more importantly, your clubs and yourselves. We're going to a break now. So if I have 2:52, we're going to be back in just on 3:05.
Edith, before we go.
So before we go, RLI. Thank you, Ingrid. Good.
Yes, so I'll put my other hat on, which is Rotary Leadership Institute. I'm very conscious that we ran two very well attended online sessions, which the last one was in November, and we do need to finish that off. So for those who were part of that, yes, we will do that before the end of this Rotary year. But for incoming presidents, please do consider Rotary Leadership Institute as an opportunity for your incoming board members and your club members, and especially new members, as a really effective way to learn more about Rotary and what Rotary offers to them. And we'll be running a hybrid version of RLI for the next one.
Thank you. So watch that space coming out, and I'd say our district bulletin and on our website and to your clubs coming direct. So thanks, Ingrid. Thank you, Craig, again for beginning that conversation on our Rotary for tomorrow. And go away and have a break now, whānau, and we'll see you back here at 2:03:05. Kia ora. Treasurer for the second to last session of the 15th of May LED session. I'd like to welcome to the session today, Alan Eyes, past District Governor, 2011-2012, District Finance and Administration and Risk Management Chair, member of the Rotary Club of Pukekohe, and his very able right-hand woman for this afternoon, Glynis Carter, District Treasurer, past Area Governor and Rotary Club of Manukau City Sunrise. I'm handing that over to you. Thank you, Ellen and Glynis.
All right.
Yeah. So, Glynis, do you mind perhaps share your screen in a minute? But you know, it's my pleasure to welcome you all to this Treasurer's session. And in doing so, we know that we have a range of people on the meeting with various backgrounds and financial matters, various experience within Rotary. So, you know, we've got to pitch this somewhat down the middle, from those on the call who will know as much, perhaps even claim to know more than Glynis and myself, to those who might be new coming to the role. So please take this as an introduction, and opportunities provided a bit later to talk on some of these points within the breakout. But please do take the opportunity to reach out at the end or over the coming weeks or during the year if you have any queries that you think we can assist you with. So now Glynis is going to run most of this session, and as Edith said, she's very well qualified to do so. Glynis is our district finance treasurer, the district treasurer, but she also comes with many years experience as a Rotarian, and many years of experience, hands-on experience as a treasurer of the Rotary Club of Manukau City, and her day job is a partner of a significant accounting firm. So she's very well qualified to lead this session. Over to you, Glynis.
Thank you very much, Alan. We've got a lot to get through. So there's, I'm going to have to talk extremely fast, which is just as well that I can do that. So I've got 3 minutes for each slide. So you need to hang on and try and I'm sure most of you will keep up. Certainly, you know, as Alan said, it's difficult to know just where to pitch this, but hopefully you'll get something from it. Firstly, we just wanted to touch on club leadership. It's obviously a leadership role within the club, but really has defined responsibilities. And the issue here is that there are a number of acts and legislation that you need to keep in mind. So not only is there the club constitution and bylaws, there's the Charitable Trust Act, there's the Incorporated Societies Act, and there's compliance with tax, and we'll talk a little bit more briefly about GST. So there's a great deal of things that you need to actually be, even if you don't, you know these things through and through, but to be aware of them. You also have responsibilities both to District RI and Foundation. We're going to cover that off shortly. but generally it's really about making sure that you're the person responsible for managing those finances and for being accountable for them, being transparent. And obviously you don't want the club to be running at a deficit. Obviously we want to budget for a surplus. You have, and we talk about budget, that's what we were talking about, you have some responsibilities beforehand. One of them is to be preparing for that year. And so working with your PE and putting in place a budget for the coming year. It will be a budget just for running the club, but also you need to have an idea of what sort of fundraising you're going to need to do to be able to do the projects that you want to do, the ongoing projects coming through from the previous year, but also some of the standard things that your club does every year, like Ryla or Moona or some of those, a lot of those youth programs. So it's important to get that budget in place. During the financial year, we're going to cover off in detail some of the things that you might be doing as that goes along on the next slide. But at the end of term, unfortunately, at the 30th of June next year, it doesn't just all stop. So there's obviously a great deal of things that you need to do to wrap up that year. If you're on an ongoing role as treasurer, then you can obviously do that while in your role throughout the year. But if you are changing over each year, which I think is actually quite a big ask for this particular position, but if you are changing over, you've got to be responsible for getting those financial statements finished. So there is, as I say, quite a lot involved in the role. It's not for the faint-hearted. Anything you want to add, Alan?
No, nothing at this stage. Thanks, Glynis. Yep.
So as a treasurer, just before, as we said, before you start, if you're new to the role, you need to really get alongside your current treasurer and just try to understand what processes and systems they use. And generally, it's not worth, if that's worked, don't try and rock the boat. I mean, there might be things you can do to make things simpler, but it's sometimes just better to roll with what's there. You need to ensure that you're working with your president, as I say, setting up that budget, making sure that nothing falls between the cracks, because generally the president, secretary and treasurer will be notified if there's anything comes through from RI. Invoicing, collecting all monies due is around managing however it is that your club manages invoicing for subs and any other, I mean, each club I've found does something different, and you need to obviously be aware of what that is, and you need to ensure that you keep the members on track. So you need to manage if there is and reconcile if there is somebody slipping behind with subs or something like that. So you need to really be that liaison and reconciling and be over and above and across that. They don't have a great deal of cash these days, but actually when we're fundraising, we may do, and we may have be collecting quite a bit of cash. If you're doing that, you should be banking that promptly, and it's good to have some controls around that. Particularly if it's a fundraising where there is a lot of money, you know, that you have one person counts if the other person banks it, that sort of thing, that there's usually always two people involved in that. Paying outgoings, obviously, as I say, you're accountable to the board. You need to have an authorisation system set up. You need to keep the documentation. You need to decide where that documentation gets kept, because you're going to need to keep that for at least 7 years. And you should have dual signatories on any account. You need to decide what software you're going to use. Generally, the clubs at the moment are using Xero and Club Runner in conjunction. We would really promote that and suggest that you do stay with that. It's again, it's something, if you're set up on that, just don't go go meddling with things that aren't broken. So we would recommend that you carry on with that. The financial statements or financial reports to the board, you need to decide what actually is applicable for your organisation or for what the board needs to know. And often, because we're a non-profit, the general ledger sort of profit and loss reports don't always give the information that the board is after. So you need to sit down with you, have a look at what was presented by the previous treasurer, talk to your president and the people on the board as to whether that's actually providing them with what they need to know. You must make sure that your profits up to the end of June, or when I say profit, obviously not for profit, but that your fundraising surpluses are transferred to a registered charitable trust before the end of the financial year. Otherwise, you will be taxable on that. So you've got to make sure that you've got that across the charitable trust. So it's about now, next year, or about this middle of June, you should really be working out what it is that you need to transfer across. And then after the 30th of June 2023, you will need to prepare annual accounts. If your bylaws say that they have to be audited or independently reviewed, then you're going to need to organise that and liaise with that auditor or reviewer. If there's something in the bylaws that says that you actually can, the board can resolve not to do that, then that is also okay, but there has to be a resolution through your club. You have to file and pay any income tax on time, and file your tax returns on time, file your GST returns on time. So you need to know what periods are there and what dates, due dates you have. There's no point in incurring penalties in that. I mean, as a club, all we're trying to do is keep it to the barest minimum. Every year you need to also file an annual return, and people get confused about annual returns because it's a tax return, but also an annual return on the Incorporated Societies Register, which is at the company's office. Not physically at the company's office, all online now, but 1 month after your AGM, you're supposed to have that annual return filed. And as I say, it's an online process, and you need to upload your audited or reviewed financial statements. Also, you may have a different trust treasurer, and if that's the case, then you need to be working with them. The two sort of go hand in hand these days. But just make sure that you know, if you happen to be both, that whether you're acting for the club or whether you're acting for the trust, because it's actually quite important at that. To make sure that that you are actually wearing a different hat at different times, making different decisions. Alan, over to you.
Well, I would add to this session is what Glynis has outlined, just reinforces the critical part the treasurer plays in good process and good governance for all clubs. And so if you're a treasurer or incoming treasurer online, do be actively involved. Do ask the questions. In a lot of ways, you are the gatekeeper. And if you're a president-elect on the line, please recognise the critical role that the treasurer does play, and encourage them to keep on top of what's happening and ensure the board is fully informed. Thanks, Glynis.
Cool. So we're throwing in here the trust treasurer. Now, some of you may not be the trust treasurer. A lot of the smaller clubs, you'll probably be both. If you are both, then again, I've said if you're new to the role, make sure that you find out what's been done before. When you're talking about the trust, there's you've got to go back to your trust deed. So instead of the constitutional bylaws that you've got with the club, you've got a trust deed that formed that trust, and you must act in accordance with that trust deed. And that is crucial. You also must make sure that it's the trustees that you're reporting to if you're the trust treasurer. And that is often overlooked because the club is passing these funds over to the charitable trust, and it's actually the charitable trust that's making the donations to our charities and to our projects. So it's got to be the trustees that resolve that. The board can recommend, but the trustees have to make that decision. So and that should be minuted and resolved. Now, of course, that's the secretary's job to do those resolutions, but as a trust treasurer, you shouldn't be paying out unless the trustees have agreed to that. And if you do make charitable donations, please get receipts for that. And on the other hand, supply a receipt for any donations received. And you need to know what it is that you have to have in that. And one of those things will obviously be your charities number. Again, only pay outgoings, but this time authorised by the trustees, have dual signatories, and again, just think about what it is in this case that the board needs to know. Probably things about what donations been received in, what commitments that have already been made that may not already been paid out. It's how much money you've got there, so your cash balances or what you've got at the bank, and also maybe what investments that you've got, if you've got something temporarily in term deposits earning very little interest at the moment, but even so. So the other thing is to prepare the annual accounts. Now for a charitable trust, these have to be not-for-profit, using the not-for-profit accounting standards. Most of our trusts, in fact, I think all of them would be tier 3 or tier 4. Now, if that is all gobbledygook to you, then you're going to need to get some help because that's the reporting standards that those annual accounts have to be prepared on, and that may well be quite different to what the local tennis club can prepare. So, again, you might need to have these audited or independently reviewed, but if you go back to your trustee and see whether the trustees can resolve otherwise. Generally, our charitable trusts are exempt from income tax, and they may or may not be GST registered. It may be that they don't have needed to be GST registered because they shouldn't be carrying on events. And you should file another annual return, a different annual return at the charities, with the charities register, which is again on the company's register. And that is by the 31st of December if you have 30th of June balance date. So, all good there, Alan?
Perhaps I'll just comment that often with our activities within clubs, that funds are raised for particular purposes, and or funds are donated to the trust for particular purposes. So just keep in mind with your treasurer's hat on that money maybe come into the trust, that the trustees need to be very mindful of the purpose for which it was donated. It's their decision at the end how it's applied, but you may just need to keep some little pockets, because sometimes funds that are raised this year may not actually be expended on for that purpose for 2 or 3 years out. So you just got to be careful you keep those tabs.
Yeah, true. So there's some things that you must account for in your budget, and these are all your responsibilities through to Rotary International and to the district. So the RI dues come through in US dollars. They're billed to the clubs. That's the per member rate up there, but the invoice comes to the club, and it is payable. Just looking there, I think it's going there. It's payable twice a year, and they will invoice you in July and in January. And at the moment, we've now set up that you can pay that through a 9940 bank account. There's no GST on it because it is still going to the US and has been invoiced from the US, but we can pay it in New Zealand dollars, and that is actually a lot easier than the other alternative, which if it's money order you would have to pay the fees, and if otherwise people have been putting it on their credit card on the RI website. So this, I do urge you that the instructions for how to do this we can send through, around about the time that invoice comes through. But just remember that the RI due is invoiced twice a year. Also invoiced twice a year is the RDU magazine subscription. Those are the rates there, and the digital has just gone up, which we just edited today. So again, billed in July and January, because that is invoiced from Australia. There's no GST on those either. There is a New Zealand bank account to pay those into. And then finally, the District 9920 is an annual levy, so once a year, and usually about August, the budget needs to be accepted first, and then those invoices will come out, and that levy, the New Zealand clubs pay GST, but Pacific Islands don't. And one other thing I just put in there is just to remember your Rotary Foundation. There's a obligation to pay annual giving, and very much would like Polio Plus as well. Generally, clubs have a sort of level where they sit and pay that each year. But just remember that that is an definitely an expectation, and the more that you can find for that, I'm sure a foundation will be very, very happy to receive. Alan?
Just in terms of billing those dues, the RI numbers are based on membership or the RI billings are based on the membership at the 30th of June. And likewise, when those numbers are finalised, which is generally in the first half of August, those are the membership numbers that Glynis will use for the district levy. So, yeah, it is important that your membership numbers in the RI system are accurately reflecting who are the club members at the 30th of June, if you want to make sure that your billings are appropriate going into the next year.
That's a very good point. Very good point. So before the end of June this year, you want to make sure that that everything is updated and take off any members that you may have lost, which of course doesn't always sit well with people who want to be representing great numbers at the end of the year. So actually, we might have ducked over a slide, but anyway, we just, Ellen, you were going to give the treasurers a rundown on the club insurance.
Yep, yes, happy to do that. So this is just a very high level update on insurance. As with many things to do with organisations these days, insurance has become far more complicated. Past District Governor Craig Horrocks has been leading work not only for our district but wider through New Zealand, reviewing the old policies that we have. You may be aware there were some changes in terms of coverage last year and how that was paid for. Further changes this year, and some work still continues. So for next year, the basic insurance is included in the district levies. So as I say, just to stress, for the basic covers, there won't be any extra invoices coming to your club for insurance. It's all part of the district budget, which was approved earlier this afternoon. The new approach effectively covers all bar one of the New Zealand districts, and so for New Zealand and Pacific Island, and the work being done is tying in with what's happening for Zone 8, which includes Australia. So, and behind all of this is two what's called master policies to get the coverage that's required. So this will provide for the usual liability cover for the clubs, and also provided certain criteria are met, that it also extends to cover the trusts. Now, included and or being worked on for next year is cyber cover, and also for defined youth activities. And the cyber and the youth are added complications, and still some work being done there, particularly the coverage within New Zealand versus what still some limitations around the cover for the Pacific. So as I say, we can't go into all of the detail on this. There is a Q&A available, and when these slides get issued, you'll have the links there to look at this. Just be aware, and you may have been part of it, there was an insurance survey letter sent some weeks ago to clubs. Craig told me that the uptake, the response from New Zealand and PI clubs within our district was not great, only like about 30%. There's another cover around the youth activities, or a questionnaire around youth activities has just been sent or about to be sent. So I would encourage whoever receives these things in your clubs to please do respond to these, so that you can end up, and we can all end up with the most comprehensive packages that we can have available. So that's it on insurance. Thanks, Glynis.
Right. Thank you. Where's my cursor gone? So, I don't know if you've got any final questions or comments. Edith, do you want us to run through the questions? I have got some resources here as well, but do you want us to run through the two questions for the breakout groups, or will you do that?
No, that'd be great if you could just put those up.
Okay,
and if our AGs and people leading those,
This
and
one-
or others
Yep.
that might come up, because it's a really comprehensive area of club activity. that's
Okay,
been
so
presented.
this one isn't actually one of the ones I want you to discuss, but it was just basically to pose the question: if you're feeling confident and understanding the treasurer role, or if you needed further support, where can you access that if necessary? And there's some online resources, obviously at rotary.org in the My Rotary Learning Centre. There's also there's our email addresses there, and Kai Hacker's email address too. Don't know that we asked him whether we could put that up, but oh well. And there's also some information on Club Runner. There's the Treasurer's Manual there. Just with some of those resources, though, they are very Americanized, so they may not lend themselves to our tax compliance or our actual laws here. So just keep that in mind. There's also I couldn't find a copy of it, but there's also was a dossier sort of written by Bruce Howe, who was the past district treasurer, sorry. And I can definitely find that and make that available to anybody, and maybe we can update it as well with Bruce's permission, but they just update that because there could be some changes. You know, there's always changes. So we could update that for them. So if you didn't want a copy of that, perhaps give us an email. And yeah, so the two questions that we had, the first one, that the separation of the club and trust activities is important, and it's not always recognised as such by members. So what ways does your club make separation work? So that's the separation between the money, between the club money and the trust money, and the club and trust activities that are generating that money. That's the first question. And the second question is dealing with club money and charitable fundraising. The processes need to be robust and transparent. What safeguards do you have in your club to ensure that club funds are properly accounted for? And that is right from the moment of receiving them. As I said before, sometimes you might receive cash, and just how do you account for that? And what other safeguards do you have to ensure that everything is properly accounted for? Because the last thing we want is some scandal involving money in a Rotary club. So those are the two questions.
Cool. So we have those two overarching questions. Before we go into our breakout groups, we're at 3:33. We'll have 10 minutes in those groups to continue this conversation around the responsibility of treasurer and dealing with our charitable trusts, fundraising and systems and processes that are currently happening well, but also areas that you might need support in. So thank you, John Fothergill. Let's go into breakout groups for the treasurer's session.
Done.
Kia ora te whānau. We're going really well. Just about there for another break. And then you're all coming back for that final session at 4 o'clock because it's all about youth. And all of us on this call are looking so youthful and so informed about our learning and development today that why would you not want to come back? Tanya, I'm going to hand this over to you right now. There was a burning question that you came back into the main room with. Kōrero mai.
Kia ora koutou. There were some questions around insurance at a district level, what is covered and what do clubs have to cover for themselves. And there was some discussion in our group where some thought that activities run by clubs like marathons or trolley races or whatever were now covered under the district insurance, and some thought that it wasn't. So I'm just wondering if you could give the group an update for us. Thank you.
Right. So the distinguishing characteristic is the activity an event which involves the public. Now, if you're ticketing anything, or you've got vendors who are providing food or drinks, etc., that will not be covered. If it's a fundraiser, you know, sausage sizzle outside Bunnings, or a book fair or something of that nature, that's covered under the policy. So the key distinguishing characteristic is this an event which involves the public in either ticketing costs or you know, so if it's a marathon, you know, is there an entrance fee, or if it's are you charging exhibitors, or have you got merchants there who are providing food, in which case you will need event insurance.
Does that answer your question, Tanya?
And are there preferred insurers that clubs can actually, you know, be given a list of those, or is it up to them to find their own?
No. We have a master policy with event cover. So all they need to do is put a help desk ticket in. There's some further work being done on putting this all online, so you can put your event in and just it'll test out whether it requires separate event insurance. But those are the three characteristics. Is it open to the public? Are the public paying in the form of a ticket or an entrance fee? Is there exhibitors who are paying, or are there vendors that are providing things like food and beverage, in which case you will need event insurance. And in the meantime, if there's a help desk ticket, we can actually make sure that that's processed through and you can get a insurance policy or quote.
Thanks, Craig.
Right.
Thanks, Tanya. Just like to move us on at 3:50 so that you do get a decent break. Group 1, is there any key messages or a question that came back that you'd like to share with the main room?
Group 1 is Evelyn's group.
Evelyn, thank you. Okay, group 2.
That's Joyty's group.
We were lucky to have Alan Eyes in our group, so we have asked him, the group asked him the question, all answered. Thanks.
Fantastic. We love that. Yes, we transported him around the groups. That's his words, not ours. Okay, group 3.
That's Raj's group.
Hi, yes, we had the question about the insurance, so that's been answered. Thank you.
Cool, thank you. And group 4, I think that was our Pacific whānau.
Pacific whānau that had Glynis in the group.
Yes. No further partai questions?
No, we all good. Thanks. Glenys was online to help us.
Cool, keep in touch.
One thing
Okay.
was one thing to note for next year is that the Pacific Island clubs, of course, don't need to have the same structure that we do here. So we will include that next time.
Great learning. Thank you, Teresa. Okay, whānau, it is 3:51. You have got your well-deserved last break.
Do you want your poll, Edith?
Oh, the poll. Thank you, John Fothergill. The poll. Okay, little interactive session. The poll is coming up. Any second now? Okay, can you, I think that's the answers.
No, you
actually,
see
Rob.
the answers, Edith, because you're a host.
Oh, okay, I
Participants
see
should
the
see a
answer.
poll on their screen.
Okay, can you see a poll on your screen, whānau?
It is being answered as we speak.
Beautiful.
At least
Okay.
one.
We've got more time for breakout. Thank you. Somewhat informative. Thank you.
Those people who click other, can they type a chat note with their suggestions, please?
Yes, and we'll capture that in the when we do our recording. So anything in other, please put it in the chat. Cool. Right, we're 0 out of, yeah, we're getting there, whānau. 16 out of 19. There is currently 35 on the call.
There's 19 out of 19. Yep.
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 Just saying.
Yep. We should get up to about 30.
We should. Come on, you can do it. Hit a button on the screen. We need the feed in for our learning and development whānau going forward. So really appreciate that. Thanks, Charles, for that question. Thank you, Simon. Appreciate it.
There's a question from Charles about distributing the content, particularly those slides that have the links, I think would be a good idea.
Yeah, all of us will be, as you can see, Charles, it's recorded, and we will upload that onto the district website under learning and development, and you will be able to access those links. So great question, thank you. Okay, let's have a look at our answers at 3:53. Okay, thank you for the others. Less time in breakouts, cool. Majority, thank you, Glynis, Ellen and Craig. Very informative and interactive. So 81%, loving that. Okay, after our poll now, you are admitting people here. You are into your last breakout group, and I'm going to bring everyone back at 3:05. Last session, youth and young adults, come back. We're looking forward to
4:05.
actually increasing that. Charles, you had you saying goodbye or hello?
Just 4:05.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Charles. 4:05. Look, see, I'm having so much fun. I'm going back a session, back an hour. I just love having you all in my space. Thank you, Glynis and Ellen. Ka kite.
Thank you all for attending the Treasurer section. Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Keep in touch with them, whānau. We love looking at everyone, but we want you to have a break. 4:05. Back here, or B square.
Hi, Edith. I'm just checking. I've just checked that I can share my screen, and I've got this.
Please. Sorry, thanks. So yeah, I'm Ariana, and I'm going to be introducing our speakers for our youth and young adults session this afternoon. Our first speaker is Aini Kwok. She's the Ripon District Program Coordinator, and she's also a member of the Rotary Club of St. John's. And she will also be joined by Hope Horrocks, who is our District Youth Protection Officer. So thank you, Aini.
Hang on, people. Ah, I lost it now. All right. Hello, everyone. Can you all see my my slide? The slide?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. So I'm sure everyone knows who I am. My name is Aini Kwok from the Rotary Club of St. John's as of Friday. I reside in Wellington and have been a member of District 9920 Wellington, now St. John's since 2013. So I'm going to go really quickly about a bit about the youth programs that we have. So the district chair is Peter Ross, and he puts in his apology today. He has a family commitment. George is with at the motor show with the Pepakura fundraising motor show yesterday and today, so he puts in his apology as well. We have a young team of Craig Soni Tuato and Emily Muli heading our Spring Ripen 2022 and our Autumn Ripen that's happening in July. We've got Craig, Tim Wilcock and Bogdan as the chair. And of course, we've got our very important school liaison, Ariana, whom everyone knows, and Isabella Clark. So these are the youth programs that we have in our district, and I'm sure everybody is familiar with it. What I'd like to bring your attention to is the youth activity wellbeing policy. Craig, Hope, we're going to talk a bit more about it because it's very critical that those that work with the youth goes through this program, understand this policy very well. The role of the Youth Protection Officer, Hope, once again, I'm going to come back to Hope a little bit later on to talk a bit more about what is required. So, how many of you have attended RIPEN? The program itself, RIDA, National Science Forum, Youth Exchange, unfortunately, is on hold. The Challenge Camp is also on hold. Muna is happening in July. And our first up the rank is the Autumn Ripen happening on the 22nd to the 24th of July. Right. Now, the leadership team, couple of them, in fact, most of them are coming back from the earlier RIPEN leaders team from the 2019 and the 2021 event. So back for more. So we talk about budget in the earlier session. So if you could budget 375 per student for the autumn RIPEN, which is the July one, and the spring RIPEN happening in early October for $300. We're going to talk about that yellow bit with Hope. So everyone knows about RILA happening on the 2nd to the 9th of July. And this slide may not be updated very well because I'm not sure whether which club is providing the Rotarian resources this time round. Okay, RIDA, George is very much involved with RIDA. We have different clubs doing it in the schools. Once again, notice the yellow box. Okay. Muna happening on July again at 24th of July, 22nd of July, 29th of July. And once again, we would like you to remember to budget 250 per team per school. We use the Rilarians as leaders for the event. Okay. Watch again that yellow box. Science Forum is another one, which is worth, is another tool that you can take to the schools. It's a wonderful 2-week in-house session for the young aspiring students in STEM program. Look at the budget for $18.95 per student. Now, this year it was canceled and the new dates I haven't been advised, but do look it up in the upcoming online booklet that is being prepared as we speak. Challenge Camp is on hold because most of the mentors for Challenge Camp are the IYEs. So at the moment now it's on hold due to COVID. So there are lots of other programs supported by the district, like the Reading Enrichment, which is run out of the Penrose Club. Then the Dictionaries in School, Trees for Survival. I do know St. John's is quite big on Trees for Survivals and the other clubs. The Eureka Awards. Interestingly, the Eureka Awards is one of the highlights in the Wellington school scene. The Walsh Flying School, I haven't seen anyone coming through it, but this is another worthwhile programs that clubs can take it to the school. And St. John's Sailing Program. And in Remuera Club, they run the Visually Impaired Camp. Auckland East runs a very successful breakfast club with bound courses, and which I'm passionate about is the Young Totoro Award. It's new in 2020. It's recognizing young adults who have done good in the community. Now, okay. So like I said, the resources will be available online from 1st of July, and those who require paper-based, do let us know. And Peter will organize that to be printed out for everyone, but we prefer to do it on a booklet basis. Hope, are you ready?
I hope you're muted.
Thanks. Yep, I'll just share my screen now.
Okay.
Please stop sharing yours, Amy, and then we can. Thank you.
Everyone see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so we've only just kind of got back together about this because obviously everything was on hold for 2 years. So there will probably be a bit of updating with protection policies and procedures going forward, but just thought we'd give you an overview of where they stand at the moment. So the youth protection team, that's me for this district, and Robin Ingram has come on board. So I'll go a bit into detail about how we're going to split those duties in terms of just making the workload a bit more manageable. So we've decided that we'd work together on this, which is great. Robin's fantastic. So the youth protection framework that the clubs and activity organisers need to be aware is they need to identify events that would be termed a youth activity, have awareness of the policies, which we'll discuss a bit further, volunteer appointment and training, and reporting incidents. So young person's definition, anyone under the age of 18, any diminished capacity above the age of 18 may also not included in this definition, but certainly if you have concerns about protection for those kinds of events, please get in contact with me. By the way, I should just skip back a few. You'll see my contact details are on this, and this will be shared at the end. Activity organizer, so that's anyone who's organizing these activities. They should be in coordination with me as to when the activity is going to happen, what kind of procedures and policies need to be complied with, because as you'll see, some events require more stringent checks than others. So a volunteer is any adult assisting on delivering a youth activity. So that includes the organisers, the members of the organising committee, the actual event volunteers, and for exchange, obviously host families. The key thing is we've just tried to make this really simple for people to understand. So we've broken it down into 3 levels when it comes to these activities. Level 1 is events where Rotary isn't the host. So these are the kinds of things where you might be providing some volunteers to a school program. In that case, we expect that you will feed in whoever is kind of arranging the volunteers to assist with those school programs will feed into those hosts' own policies and procedures. It's still expected that our volunteers will comply with meeting the training requirements, but it's key with that kind of level 1 is, as Rotarian aren't the activity organisers, we're going to follow the lead of who is the actual host. Level 2 is Rotary hosted day events. So that's anything that, you know, any activity where it's not an overnight or multi-day event. In these cases, the bare minimum is to ensure that all volunteers have completed the policy and learning procedures. Police vetting, the cautious approach is police vetting is always preferable, but our kind of key guidelines with that is if there is a risk on a day event that the volunteers are going to be at any one point one-on-one with a child or potentially alone with a child, police vetting needs to take place. So level 3, and that's any multi-day events, any overnight events with under 18-year-olds, police vetting is mandatory. And all these volunteers must ensure that they have completed the learning programs. Just one point when it comes to volunteers is that a discussion we've had recently is because of COVID, we've seen how quickly it is to lose your backstop of extra people to depend on. You know, just last week, half my firm was down with COVID. So we lost, you know, half the firm was just not in the office, they were in isolation. And that's really made it clear that when these events go on, you do need to have backups. You need to have, you know, if a club is going to run an event, they really should make sure the entire club has gone and done the learning procedures. And the club has a record of that, so that if they need to pull up some last minute volunteers because people have had to drop out, they've got vetted, you know, they've got volunteers that are able to do so. What we don't want is positions where we're losing volunteers last minute and we don't have people who have gone through the correct policies and procedures to be able to fill those spots. So key things with the volunteers is if you go onto the website, you'll see that they should be completing these 2 learning processes: the preventing and addressing harassment and the protecting youth program participants. There is a child youth protection page on the Rotary website. This is the main key thing to direct people to if they have any questions about youth protection. So those are all resources readily available. When it comes to the Learning Centre and completing those policies, it's a really good idea for the clubs to promote having the whole club having completed them, whether or not they're expecting to volunteer or not. It's a really handy thing to have. One of the things that Robin and I will be doing in terms of coordinating efforts going forward is trying to reach out to the clubs to get updated lists of everyone who has completed the policies on the Learning Centre. So youth protection duties. The key thing obviously is education and training. So here we go. Inform clubs and districts of obligations, provide access to training materials. These are all the things that we're going to plan on doing outreach for to the clubs and relevant activity organisers. One thing we discussed on Wednesday, and as I said, we've only just had that meeting on Wednesday, so we haven't finalised these, is that we'd like to have a regular Zoom meeting that I do, say, every 3 months. And anyone who is interested on running an activity or a club that wants to kind of update the youth protection can attend that Zoom meeting. Also, if the club wants me to attend one of their club meetings via Zoom or in person to do some training, that's fine. Just get in contact with me and I'm happy to arrange attending a club event to do that. Where we've split the roles, undertaking the actual police vetting and maintaining the records is going to be handled by Robin. So she'll also get access to the Youth Protection email account, so she'll be able to coordinate that as well. And then incident reporting, that's going to come through to me. So if there's any event where a person under the age of 18 raises an issue, this is the immediate thing to follow through, is you want to listen to them. It should be completely safe space, non-biased, non-judgmental. You just want to let them be able to tell their story of what they think happened and their account of it. Take a record of that discussion, and it should then immediately be reported to me and potentially the police as well, depending on the incident. But that's kind of the first step, is letting the children have a safe space to discuss the issue, and then following through on the procedures. Once it's been an incident has been reported to me, I'll assess the situation, notify the police, and immediately remove the student from the situation, contacts service primary contact, advocate, victim. Now, in some of those situations, if I'm not actually there on the scene volunteering, and it's something where you need to have the kids removed from the situation, that should be done by the people who are the activity organisers, in coordination with me, and same with notifying the police. So that's everything kind of as the broad strokes when it comes to child protection. As I said, because everything's been on hold for 2 years, we've just had a recent catch up as to updating the policy and procedures, and doing reach out again to the activity organisers and the clubs in the district, and we will be providing some further resources soon.
Thank you, Hope. Now, it sounds quite scary for those that are not, but it's not meant to be difficult, if you know what I mean. We got to protect ourselves, protecting you, protecting ourselves, and also the students that are involved in the activity. The youth activity well-being policy has been worked on for the last few years, but it's only now that we are putting it all together so that it's easy for everyone to understand. Hope talks about the RI learning module. If you get a chance, please do so. It's really, really useful, and it's really fun to do as well at the same time. So I encourage everyone to go through that module, and it makes life the chairperson, the organizing committee doing these events rely on all these records being kept in check, current and in check. And we thank Hope and Robin for helping us to do that, especially like, events like RIPEN, whereby it's an overnighter, 2 nights, and we will have incidents, we may encounter incidents whereby we will require to put this plan in place. So we would like to see the policies, it's a living document, and it goes through the motion to make sure that we update it all the time, and everyone is aware what is their obligations. So any other questions?
Yeah, I'm sorry, just to add into that, the Learning Centre, the module really doesn't take a lot of time. It's not difficult to do. And that's one of the reasons why we're hoping to promote just getting the clubs to get everyone possible that they can to do it. It's really a simple, easy way to make sure that if you've got any volunteers that want to do something, whether it's last minute or it's a planned event, you've got the clubs set in place to do that the volunteers can do that, and they're aware of protecting themselves, the children, and also the reputation of Rotary as well.
That's all from us.
So yeah, are there any burning questions just before we split up into the breakout rooms that anyone would like to ask?
I think that Ariana, that both Aini and excuse me, Hope raised raised one important point. As much as it's about protecting the youth, it's about protecting the volunteers. And I think that if you go in with that attitude, you will come out well versed in what your responsibilities and accountabilities are. Thank you.
I agree.
Okay, awesome. And so yeah, we'll put you all back into breakout rooms for about 12 minutes where you guys can discuss this in a bit more detail, and then yeah, we'll bring you all back after that. So
okay, I'll open the rooms now.
Yeah.
We're running out of people.
I'm wondering if we can put you into some rooms, just with.
I've heard you've had really good discussions. I just wanted to open up the floor for people to share some of the questions that might have come up during the sessions, or any ideas or reflections that you might have had. And so first, I just wanted to pass it to Teresa, because she brought up a good question that I think would be useful for everyone.
I actually wanted to know if the child protection, this youth protection policy covered anything on photos, of releasing photos in social media, and for youth under 18. Is there some sort of consent, or is it included in the policy? Because I know after discussing with the team that in a group it would be okay, but if you're doing an individual project and you're taking photos of a few people, does the policy cover it?
Okay, I'm going to speak on behalf for RIPEN. On RIPEN, when the children put in the application, there is a clause down there that says that we ask your permission for use as as a promotional. Okay, and it's always a group photo, not individual photo. Yeah, not like a headshot of you, for example. It's a group photo. But in the RIPEN application form, at the bottom down there, there is a clause that says, permission is we seek permission to use your photos for promotional. Yeah, and that's as far as we go. I don't know whether there's anything else that we need to cover there, Hope.
I'll perhaps just add to that, Teresa. That's a very good question, because while you can seek permission from the candidate, if that form is not signed by the parent as well, you may run into some issues. The key thing is also, everybody's got to remember, Rotary International has a privacy policy, and that actually overrides any of the documents that we generate, like application forms. So it is a bit tricky. The best advice that can be given is that if you're going to use a photograph, make sure that photograph is shown to the person before it's posted. Hopefully, you can add to them. If you have any questions in relation to this photograph, or you need guidance from your parents, please let us know. So it is a very good question. It's a tricky area, and we do obviously need to have those group photos, as Aini has said, because they are so much part of recording the joy and the fun and the history and all the rest of it. So hopefully that helps, not confuses.
And yeah, were there any other questions that came up in your breakouts that you?
Hi. Just on the photos again. So would the same apply for the photos? We use for bulletins, for social media, just in general context. Kids, even adult photos, I guess. For social media or bulletins. Would that apply?
generally, the issue with photos involving children is who can give consent, and the child can give consent, but you're safer to have the parent give consent. Now, look, at the end of the day, people post stuff all over the place. Kids post to Facebook, to Instagram, to TikTok, etc. So, we don't want to get too carried away by it. But if you're planning to use it in a bulletin, the best thing is just to ensure that if you can show the photograph, and as Aini has said, keep the photograph in a group position. If you have a scholar or someone of that nature who has been given an individual award or been helped, then the best thing is, if you're talking to that child or their guardian or parents, is to say, look, we'd like to be able to feature this photograph in announcing the scholarship or whatever. Yep. I don't know whether you've got any comments, Hope, in terms of current law. It's a bit.
I mean, I think when it comes to individual photos with children, for things like that scholarship program, if you can do the photos with their parents and with their parents' consent, that would be the preferable option.
And so, yeah, were there any other questions from like Evelyn's group, or like any points that you?
With Annie, so we are very well understanding. And then apart from Annie, that she just told us that because we're in orange stage, so we can still register for the right pen. We still some spaces, so support Annie, join, and ask more people to join. It's very good right pen program. Don't miss it.
Awesome. And what about from Joyti's group? Any?
We were lucky to have Hope with us, and there were a lot of questions from the team about the police vetting. So Hope explained, I think everyone was happy, unless somebody has got a question, Leslie or somebody?
No.
All good.
Oh, good. And last, just checking in with Raj's team. What did you guys get up to?
Yeah, that's fine. I think the question basically was around the photos, which we have got answered. So thanks.
So cool. So I might pass it back to Edith for the next part.
Kia ora te whānau, just about there, 4:44. We're going to throw up a poll for this session, and we would love you to access that poll and put in your thoughts. And if there's any other issues, I know that our AGs will send that to us, and we'll add that to chat. So if we can launch that, thank you, John Fothergill.
It will look very similar to the last one.
Very similar to the last one. Funny that. So off you go. Get your mouse, do the walking. Great feed-in. Thank you.
It's all right. You guys can feel me.
There's no failures in this session for 902, Aini. Cool, we've got 79%. We have lost a few to the afternoon whānau families. So thank you for keeping the space.
As before, those 5 people that have put other in there, how could we improve? If they could put something in the comments, that would be great.
Yeah,
in the chat.
In the chat, yes. And we will capture that and make sure that's passed on to Hope, Aini, and any others in that youth space that needs that. Great, so here we go. 83%, thank you. More time in breakouts, it's become a recurring theme for the last 2, so take
You do realise that just means the afternoon lasts longer.
Yeah, that's right. We're taking photos need written guidance. Thanks, Colin. We'll capture that. Okay, well done, Whānau. We've captured that. We're going to end that poll. John Fothergill, thank you.
Just one
Okay.
moment. I'm going to take a screenshot of it.
Thank you.
While I'm doing that,
getting-
I actually had a question.
Yes, off you go.
Who pays for the cost of police vetting?
Please.
Great question.
Oh,
I think it's free.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
free.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it is.
It is.
Is it?
We are an agency, aren't I right? Or something?
Yeah, we have an agency account.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Charitable trust, I think it's called.
Yeah, no,
Status.
I had heard it was going to start costing us money.
Okay.
It will cost you money if you go on your own. If John Fothergill puts in a New Zealand police check on his own, it will cost you money. But John Fothergill goes under Rotary banner, it will not cost you a cent.
Thanks, Sony. Great questions, everyone. We're on the final home straight. Great segue into the learning and development space. Rotary.org is not your club runner account. It is completely different. So if you are able or you have registered, which you all have today, then you have a Rotary.org account that is current. Please go and investigate, be curious, get into those modules and upskill yourselves as self-learners in this space for your incoming year. And we are all here to support any other questions or korero that you may have. So, Learning Centre is in your program, the link's there, go into it and get curious. 4:48, I'm going to ask DG Steve, I've put a request in chat, DG Steve. I'd love everyone to turn on their cameras, which they have done, beautiful. And he is going to capture the evidence that we have all been here this afternoon, having the most fun time we have had to date. In our
Yes.
Rotary year.
Everyone look at the camera and smile.
Yes. So there's one, we get both two. Cool. We captured that, DG Steve? Of course we have. You've had lots of practice.
I
this year.
captured that.
Beautiful. There you go. So Alan, DGE, Alan, I'm wondering if you'd like to finish us off, and I'll close with a closing karakia, and I will let you people go to a well-deserved afternoon break with your whānau and friends. You may even want to have a wee tipple of water, of course.
Yeah, all right, Edith. I think it's important when you attend one of these, you realise that within district, there is a whole lot of Rotarians who help us make this happen. And you've just actually taken a first step towards that within your club environments, which you should be proud of and be able to achieve for the future. Sometimes you're put into the unknown, and it's a bit like Ashwini taking up a new role as new club development person. She goes, oh, where do I start? But it's that learning curve that you go down. And if we stop learning, it would be horrible. Doesn't matter what age you are, you can always learn. We started off differently this time, and that's why Edith and her team have times struggled with time management, but has done fantastic around that. But by giving you an understanding of the budget of a district, and then also Craig and Ingrid giving you a very short insight into what the future of our Rotary here in New Zealand could look like, it gives you an opportunity as presidents, or going into the new year as presidents, to have a strong influence on the direction of Rotary. We're all volunteers, and I really appreciate that you've given your time up today to attend. And as much as you go, oh, what's next? There's always something next. There's something unusual. So Teresa today. I've never heard that question before. Teresa, well done. How do we manage photos? You know, it is in today's world, it is a learning curve that we go through. I've also got to thank DG Steve because he sat through here the whole 4 hours, very patient, and the facilitator didn't even ask him to speak. So well done, Steve, other than making the cup of tea. We have a great relationship, and unfortunately with Vanita, DG and Vanita, being overseas at the present time because of cultural needs after the passing of her husband. She apologises for not being able to be here today, but she's looking forward to her journey as a DGE along that. Ask you to think about it, ask you to seek advice. Remember, there's no right or wrong answer as being a president, but there are some right and wrong answers as far as your club officers trying to do the best that they can within their club environments. So thanks very much. Thank you, Edith. Thank you, Ariana, and the rest of the team. Have a good night, and we look forward to seeing you next Sunday.
Thanks,
Kia ora.
DG. And I'm just going to close us off with a karakia. Kia tau, kia tātou katoa, te ata whai tō tātou ari ki a I karaiti, me te aroha o te atua, me te whiwhi ko tahitanga ki ra wairua tapu, ake ake, ameni. And next week, I look forward to seeing your secretaries, foundation, into public image, ICT and membership, whom are on this call today, and information sharing around our various programs that we deliver in District 992. So go well, stay well, and we look forward to seeing you and welcoming you back next week. Kia ora, ka kite anō.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Well done.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was great. David stayed on right through.
Wonder if Colin and Beryl are there anymore.
Hey, Colin and Beryl.